Hello, everyone. My name is Ati Alipur, and I'm an attorney at Hudson Law. Today, we'll talk about Form N-400 or Application for Naturalization. Please note that the content of this video does not constitute legal advice. So, how do we fill out the Form N-400 or application for naturalization? We'll explain everything in detail about just the form, not documents, not the other aspects, just the form itself. And for any general application, not the marriage-based ones. For a marriage-based, we have a separate video that you can follow because some of the items are different. So we have created two separate videos. So if you don't have a marriage-based, you don't have to watch the whole long video. And if you have a marriage-based also, you don't have to watch a very lengthy video. So with that, let's just jump into it and see where we can find the form. You can find the form online by going to the website of uscis.gov/N400. Just make sure that you always look at the form from the USCIS website, not other forms that may be republished on other websites because they may be outdated. From here, you can easily find the form in a PDF format. You can fill it out, print it, or you can just print it and by handwriting fill it out. Regardless, you sign it and then you can mail it out. This is one way of filing it. Another way would be to file online or upload the form online through the USCIS online account. If you don't have a USCIS online account, I highly encourage you to have one because it's very helpful for all different processes and it's very easy to make. You just go to this page, create your online account, and then submit your email address. Then it's very easy to approve a link that you get on your email address, and then you have an online account. Once you created that, make sure that you log into that using the same email address, and then go to My Account, file a form online. From here, you can find Form N-400 or Application for Naturalization, which is a requirement for your U.S. citizenship or the first step in applying. You can upload a form online or you can fill out. I'm going to go with this option so that you see how we fill out the form. Please note that regardless of which way you go, all of the content of the forms on the PDF version or the form on this online account, the content is the same, the questions are the same. But if you file online, it's easier to track. And also you have to pay only $710 for the filing fee as opposed to $760. So as opposed to $760. So you can either determine your eligibility or just go to the application. I always recommend that you review the questions here to make sure that you qualify. There are questions about your parent, for example. If your parents are US citizen, you answer yes, otherwise no. And your age, which you have to be over 18 in order to apply. If you're a member of US Armed Forces, let's say yes or no, whatever the answer is, you just click that, or you're a lawful permanent resident. And here, you'll see there's a question about VAWA or Violence Against Women Act. If you are subject to that, make sure you consult with an attorney. We are not going to discuss the details on this video because this is just for a general application. When did you become a lawful permanent resident? Again, you see different dates because one is for U.S. citizens, U.S. citizenship application based on marriage. The other one is based on being a U.S. green card holder for over 5 years. That's why you just apply to this one if you're applying for generic ones. And then have you left the U.S.? If you have left the U.S., you answer yes in the past 5 years. Not from the time you got the green card for the past 5 years only. And if you had trips outside the US, again, in the past 5 years, you answer yes. And then if your trips took over 6 months, you answer yes. And if they haven't in the past 5 years, you say no. For example, if you got your green card 10 years ago and 2 years after you traveled for 7 months and then moved back and then you have left only for a couple of days, you don't have to answer yes to this one because that was over 5 years ago. Have you moved in the past 3 months? Because that's also for determining which state you can apply for. Let's say you haven't moved, you may be eligible. And if you're eligible, and again, if you have a complex case, make sure that you go to an attorney and consult for the details. You see that there's some information about eligibility again and what happens after basically filing and oath of allegiance and good moral character and early filing, which means you can also file after 4 years and 9 months instead of 5 years. And then basically they can qualify you for an early filing if you meet all the requirements. If you are filing for early filing, make sure that you check the dates very accurately and you read this part very carefully and closely. And then there's the fees section that explains how you potentially may be able to get a fee waiver and the documents that you may need. And then also you'll go through a biometrics appointment, which again is not related to exactly filling out this form, but today we're just focusing on the form itself. After you review all of this, you can hit start and then you'll see the form. The form has several sections. You can see different sections from the left side, getting started, about you, your family, moral character, evidence, additional information, review, and submit. So throughout filling out the form, you can move between different sections and fill out the form on the parts that you can fill out. So let's say you have partly the information and you don't have part of the information, that's fine. You can just jump to those parts and fill out the form and then make sure that you save it. Otherwise, you won't have the information saved. And then you can come back to it, in days and fill it out again. Just make sure that you save it and you don't lose the information because there's only so many days that you'll have this on your account. So if you start by the basis of your eligibility, several options. Again, we'll be talking about the general provision today, which is if you have been a U.S. permanent resident for over 5 years, you meet the moral character requirements and you haven't left the country, or you haven't left the country for over 6 months in the past 5 years, and you have been in the country for 30 months out of 5 years. If someone is assisting with completing this form, for example, an attorney or an interpreter, you answer yes to whichever is relevant. For example, if you have an attorney, if you don't have an attorney and you have an interpreter, you can answer yes or no. Or if you have someone like an immigration agent assisting you or an attorney, you answer yes, and this one can be yes or no. If both of these are no, this will also be no. Your legal name, make sure that you don't include your nicknames here. This is exactly the name that shows on your passport and green card. It has to be your legal name. Now, what else should you include in terms of the names? If you have nicknames or maiden names, you should also include those names. But the caveat is that some people think that it means if you have registered it somewhere, it doesn't mean that. You have to include every name you have used. For example, someone may be married and haven't changed their name legally, but they still use their spouse's name. They should also answer yes and include that name. Or if you have used a shortened version of your name, you can also fill it out here. And if the last name didn't change, but the first name changed, just still include the same last name and then the given name in the short way, for example, in the short form. And if there is more than one, you can save and add another one. If you want to legally change your name, you answer yes, and then you include the name that you want your name to be changed to, or else you just click no. How they can contact you. The daytime telephone number can be the same as your cell phone number, so it doesn't have to be a landline. If you don't have a landline, you just want to include your phone number, cell phone number, that's fine. You just click in the mobile telephone number that this is the same as your daytime telephone number, and then your email address, which should be auto-populated since you have already logged in using your email address. Here, you use the physical address in care of the name should be your name and the location that you are physically at when you're filing. And when did you move to this place? You start basically from whenever you started living in that place and to present. If you have a different address than the physical address that you prefer for using for your mailing address, that's perfectly fine. You can fill out this part, which can be a different address, even different country than the previous one. This will be the place you will receive your mails. Here, you can even put the, in care of the name of the person who is getting these mails if you're not living in that address yourself. And then there's some information about students and some other types of mailing address related information that you should also carefully review. Then this part is talking about your addresses, where you have lived. You see this part that's bold, it shows that it's about the place you have lived. And then you add your addresses and from the time you lived to the time that you moved out. Just make sure that these addresses should have no gaps in between. So let's say you have lived somewhere for 2 years, then traveling for a month, then lived another place for a year. You should include that 1 month address wherever you were physically, inside or outside the country, as part of your addresses. So there should be no gaps in here. And you save your addresses, continue on the form. If you're requesting for accommodation based on disability, you answer yes, otherwise you answer no. The date and place of birth. In all the dates that you're filling out for these forms, make sure that you follow the American version of the address format, which starts with month, day, and then year. So even on your passport, it may be a different one. So just follow this one. For example, if you were born on January the 2nd, this part you start here with 1, 2, and then the year. Not exactly like your passport is. And then if your parents were a US citizen, either adoptive or your biological parent, you answer yes. If not, you answer no, and then the country of birth and the country of citizenship. And the time you became a lawful permanent resident. Please note that it doesn't mean that the time your card was issued, because you may get a new card, but then you may be resident since a different date. On your card, it says resident since, and that is the date that you became a lawful permanent resident. And then your A number is the same as the USCIS number, which is printed on your green card. If you want the Social Security Administration to update your information, you click yes. I suggest doing that unless for any reason you don't want that. And you should include your Social Security number. In case you don't have it, you can click here, but most permanent residents do have a Social Security number. And then the USCIS online account number is auto-populated. Then you include your gender, ethnicity, race. Sometimes you may not be exactly sure because the races are defined differently in different countries. You can always look at here, which explains each race and which geographical location is relevant to that race. And your height and weight, just make sure that they are converted to feet and inches and pounds. Your eye color and hair color. Here, you should also include all the information about your employment for the past 5 years, and that should include all the schools and the places you have worked in, like your employments. Just make sure that if there is a gap, even if it's a very short gap for 2 weeks, always include unemployed and include those dates in your entries, because otherwise there would be a gap, which is not what you want. You have to disclose all the information. Don't worry about negatively affecting your application. The best and safest option is to include everything for the whole 5 years with no gaps. Then travels outside the US, which is a very important part. If you have traveled outside the US in the last 5 years, then you have to answer yes. And then you add your trips. It's very important to know exactly the date you have left the US and you return to the US. I know that a lot of permanent residents who are frequent travelers may not have these exact dates. You have to go back to your passports and stamps and tickets that you had and find this information, and definitely be very accurate about this, because that can be a disqualifying factor if your trip is over 6 months and you don't want to include inaccurate information. And then countries you travel to, if there is more than one country on one trip, that's fine. You can add country and then save and then add the next trip. After that, there are information related to your family status, for example, your marital status that you have to include, and children, regardless of if they're applying with you, not applying with you, always include all the information for all your children. If you have ever claimed to be a US citizen, you have to answer yes, but technically you shouldn't have in case you haven't, which again, you are not supposed to say you are a US citizen when you are not, then you click no. Just make sure that I see that sometimes people just answer everything no. Just make sure that you do read these questions because you'd be surprised by how some of them may require yes, some may require no. So make sure that you actually read very carefully and answer correctly. This is about a title that you may have in a foreign country, like a duke or something. If you don't have it, you just go to the next one. And I'm assuming if you are a duke or duchess, you don't have time to watch this video. So um, perhaps no. And if you owe any federal, state, or local taxes, you should answer yes, otherwise no. And this is about filing non-resident tax. When you are a US permanent resident, you should have technically filled out your tax returns as resident. If by a mistake you have filled out differently, still answer yes. But otherwise, if you're filing your tax returns, make sure that you list yourself as US resident. And there are some, again, security questions. As you see, this part is about the crimes, past crimes. Make sure you list everything, even if they were expunged, every arrest, every crime. And if the answer is yes, then you can provide more information. That doesn't automatically disqualify you, but you have to be very accurate about this part as well. So again, there are more questions that you have to read very carefully. And this part is if you have been in the US between the 18th and 26th birthday and you are a male applicant, you have to fill out this part. If it doesn't apply to you, for example, for female applicants, you just say no. And here, the question is about if you support the Constitution and form of the government of the United States, that if you support, you answer yes. And do you understand the full oath of allegiance? If you understand the oath, you say yes. And here is asking if you're unable. This is a part that I see a lot of people get it wrong because it says if you're unable to take the oath, you should answer yes. If you're able, you just say no, and then you take the oath. And if you want to upload any information here, you just go choose and then um, basically either drag and drop your file or just upload your file here. This part is about previous marriage certificates and current marriage certificate. And if you have previous marriages, even if it's outside the US, it started outside the US, it's 30 years ago, it ended outside the US, still make sure that you list them. I see also this common mistake that people think you don't have to include everything about the past. It's about every marriage you had, even if it's from a very long time ago outside the States. And if you want to file additional, evidence, you can just upload them here. And if you also are providing additional information, um, also you can respond here. Just make sure that you also include all your tax returns or tax transcripts for the past 5 years, your green card, your passport. I've seen people not providing that document thinking that they already have it. Just make sure that you upload all of that and any other evidence that's listed on the USCIS website. And then you can submit your application by reviewing and submitting here. As you see, for me, it doesn't let me submit because I haven't really filled out the whole thing. But if you want to edit each part, really, you can go very easy to just that part and complete that and come back to the review section. I highly encourage you to spend time even printing this application out and reading it before submitting, because otherwise fixing it after is going to be very hard. So it's definitely worth the time. And then you can submit your application, sign and pay online. And if you have an attorney, you'll get a representative number. Also, just make sure that you check this page that I told you about N-400, because it has all the information about N-400. There is a very extensive instruction that explains everything about this form. Don't worry about the links of it. If you have a specific question, you can always search and go to that part. And for example, let's say you have a question about military, you can just type military and then it will take you to all the parts that are about military, or you know which part and which item number you have a question on, just go to that specific part. It's very easy to work with. It's a very comprehensive and practical guide. Also, make sure that if you're filing the form with the PDF, the edition is correct. You can just make sure that the edition that is listed here is the same as the edition that you have here, because you may just print out the form and take a while to fill out and send it out. And in the meantime, the edition may have been updated. So you want to make sure that when you send it out, it's updated. Also, you can find the location where to file. In terms of the filing fees, you can also find some information. You can either authorize your credit card, basically transaction, or you can also include a check with your petition. But if you're filing online, it's very easy. You can also pay online, which is a very straightforward process. And then also, I highly encourage you to go over different documents that you want to include and make sure that any part that's relevant to you, you upload the documents related to that part. So basically, this is it about N-400, or application for naturalization. There is a lot of information online, but also if you have a specific situation or question, I highly encourage you to talk to an attorney. Otherwise, if you're filing this form online, I wish you the best of luck. Make sure that you subscribe to our channel and watch our other videos about this or other forms that you may want to file.